26, 2000. It's almost midnight, and here you are standing in line outside GameStop, like you're waiting for concert tickets. Some of you are thinking about taking a sick day tomorrow. Maybe some of you did. This isn't just a game console, this is the future of entertainment, and you're about to be one of the first to bring it home. That October night had electricity to it. The line was packed with people of all ages. Young teens there with their parents, some in their 20s and 30s, and some still in their work clothes, swapping stories about the original PlayStation, and debating whether the Emotion engine was really as powerful as Sony claimed. At $299, this wasn't an impulse buy for most of us. But when you did the math, a gaming console and a DVD player for less than the cost of a standalone DVD player, that was a no-brainer. In some locations, the media was there covering it like it was a major cultural event, because it was. Some people bought and flipped it on eBay for $600 and then used the profit for more games. But most of us, we just wanted to get home and see what this thing could really do. Remember setting it up? You carefully connect those component cables to your CRT, maybe that Sony Trinitron you'd been saving for. The weight of the console felt substantial. This wasn't a toy, this was a legitimate piece of home entertainment equipment. And then the startup sound. The PS2 logo appeared, and you knew this was going to be something that changed everything about how you spent your free time. Let's be honest, the DVD functionality is what got a lot of us to pull the trigger. Standalone DVD players were still expensive in 2000, and here was Sony offering gaming and movies for $299. It was brilliant marketing, and we knew it. Suddenly, you had a legitimate reason to start building that DVD collection you've been eyeing. The Matrix, Fight Club, Office Space, all looking better than they ever did on VHS. My first PS2 lived in my living room and became my primary DVD player. Yeah, the early units were a bit loud, but who cared? This was cutting-edge technology. Friends would come over, see the setup, and immediately start planning their own purchase. The PS2 moved gaming from the bedroom into the living room. It legitimized gaming as an adult entertainment medium. The launch titles for the PS2 might have been a bit of a mixed bag, but by the end of 2001, that's when the PS2 proved itself. Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty. Remember that first playthrough? The graphics, the storytelling, the sheer ambition of it all? That wasn't kid stuff, that was cinematic gaming for adults. And then came Grand Theft Auto 3. Walking into that open world for the first time, realizing you could do anything, it was revolutionary. Sure, we probably shouldn't admit how many hours we spent just causing chaos instead of doing missions, but that was the beauty of it. This was gaming for adults, by adults, with adult themes and adult freedom. Vice City followed in 2002, and suddenly you had that soundtrack to your weekends. That 80s aesthetic, those radio stations, you'd find yourself driving around just listening to the music, soaking in the atmosphere. These games weren't just entertainment, they were experiences. Friday nights took on a new ritual, firing up the PS2. Maybe it's Time Splitters 2 with split-screen multiplayer. Maybe it's passing the controller in Grand Theft Auto, taking turns on missions, and mocking each other's failed attempts. Maybe it's diving into Champions of Nora for a full weekend RPG session. This was pre-online gaming dominance. No headsets, no anonymous players from across the country, just you and your friends in the same room, talking trash, laughing at failures, celebrating victories together. Looking back now, those were some of the best gaming memories we ever had. The PS2 represented something important for those of us who grew up with gaming in the 80s and the 90s. This was proof that gaming wasn't just a phase that we were supposed to outgrow. Sony specifically marketed the PS2 to young adults. The games reflected that. Mature themes, complex narratives, sophisticated gameplay. The industry was growing up with us. We could have serious conversations about game narratives and design choices over drinks. Gaming was becoming a legitimate cultural force, and the PS2 was leading that charge. The PS2 was the console that made gaming socially acceptable for adults. Your PS2 library told the stories in ways that hadn't been possible in the past because of hardware limitations. You had the big action games, God of War, Devil May Cry, Black, Metal Gear Solid 2, but you also had the RPGs for those long contemplative evenings. Final Fantasy X, Kingdom Hearts, Persona. You had the sports games for when the guys came over, Madden, NBA Street, SSX. And you had the weird experimental stuff like Kamatari, Okami, Shadow of the Colossus. And in between gaming sessions, you were watching DVDs. The PS2 truly was the centerpiece of your entertainment life. One device doing everything you needed. It justified that investment 100 times over. And between gaming sessions, you were watching DVDs. The PlayStation 2 was the centerpiece of your entertainment life. One device doing everything you needed. It justified the investment 100 times over. You know, looking back, we didn't fully appreciate what we had. The Emotion Engine processor was so powerful that some people genuinely thought that Saddam Hussein was buying them for military applications. The draw distance improvements over the PS1 made worlds feel actually vast for the first time. Games like Smuggler's Run let you see mountains in the distance and actually drive to them, which was unheard of before. No more pop-in, no more fog walls. Yeah, the Xbox had more raw horsepower, and the GameCube had its charm, but the PS2 had the library, the versatility, the cultural momentum. It wasn't the most powerful console, it was the right console. Over the next few years, the PS2 became more than just a purchase, it became part of your life. It was there for those Friday night gaming sessions, it was your DVD player, it was your escape after a tough day at work. It was the conversation starter when new people came over and saw your setup. Some of us still have those original launch units. For some of us, they may be packed away now, replaced by newer technology, but we keep them because they represented something. They represented the moment gaming truly became adult entertainment. They represent countless hours of joy, discovery, and social connection. They represent a simpler time before always online requirements and day one patches. 25 years later, it's wild to think about the impact that console had. The PS2 sold over 160 million units and became the best-selling console of all time. It defined an entire generation of gaming. But more than that, it legitimized gaming as a permanent part of adult life. For those of us who were in our 20s during the PS2 era, we're in our 50s now. Some of us have kids who are discovering these games through emulation. And you know what? They hold up. The great ones still feel great, and the memories are still vivid. The PlayStation 2 launch wasn't just about getting a new console. It was about claiming our identity as adult gamers. It was about building our entertainment centers in our first real apartments or for our first homes. It was about those late night sessions with friends that we'd remember decades later. It was about being part of a cultural shift that said gaming wasn't just for kids, it was for everyone. So here's to October 26, 2000, the night we stood in line as adults, proud to be gamers, ready to embrace the future. Here's to the console that respected us as mature consumers and delivered experiences worthy of that respect. Here's to the PlayStation 2, a machine that changed everything about how we game, how we consume entertainment, and how we spend the time with people that we care about. So what was your PS2 launch night like? Where were you? What game did you buy first? Drop your memories in the comments and let's celebrate the anniversary of the PS2 together. And don't forget to subscribe for more nostalgic gaming content. Thanks again from Dan Gannott, the PS2 guy. Stay retro.